Imagine a life built on dreams of togetherness and trust, only for it to unravel in the pursuit of ambition. Nathan Caldwell, a tech tycoon with a promising future, made choices that severed his family and left his wife Isabella to pick up the pieces alone. But life has a way of weaving second chances in the most unexpected forms, as a secret carried by their quadruplets years later revealed a profound truth. This is a story of love lost and found, of resilience in the face of betrayal, and the undeniable power of transformation. If you believe in the strength of forgiveness and the beauty of redemption, stay with us as we delve into this emotionally gripping tale. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more inspiring stories. Share your thoughts below with a comment like, "I choose forgiveness and growth in my life." Now let's begin with the first chapter of this extraordinary journey. Nathan Caldwell's office windows showcased the skyline of a city that had become his playground. From the moment he had set foot in the bustling heart of Silicon Valley, his vision was singular: success. It consumed him, becoming the lens through which he viewed the world. His wife, Isabella, had once been the grounding force in his life, a kind-hearted and devoted partner who had stood by him when the odds were stacked against them. They had met in college, where Nathan's relentless drive had been both his charm and his Achilles heel. Isabella, a literature major with a penchant for seeing beauty in simplicity, had been his opposite in every way. While Nathan dreamed of empires, Isabella dreamed of a home filled with laughter and love. Despite their differences, their bond had been magnetic, forged through late-night conversations and shared aspirations for a meaningful life. But as Nathan's dreams began to materialize, they demanded a price neither had anticipated. His small tech startup exploded into prominence after a groundbreaking innovation, a software system that revolutionized online security. With this success came late nights, high-stakes meetings, and an ever-growing distance between him and Isabella. Isabella watched, dismayed, as Nathan's priorities shifted. The man who had once read her poetry now scrolled through stock reports at dinner. She voiced her concerns, gently at first, then with increasing urgency. But Nathan, blinded by ambition, dismissed her fears as overreactions. The breaking point came during a gala hosted to celebrate Nathan's latest milestone. Amid the flashing cameras and clinking glasses, Isabella felt like a shadow, a silent observer in a world she had no place in. The moment turned bitter when Nathan introduced her to Vanessa, a charismatic investor whose presence was magnetic. What began as casual business talk soon revealed an intimacy that Isabella could no longer ignore. Weeks later, Nathan confirmed her worst fears. Vanessa wasn't just a colleague. She had become a part of his life in ways Isabella had once been. With tear-streaked cheeks and a trembling voice, Isabella packed her belongings, leaving the lavish home they had built together. Nathan offered little resistance, his apology drowned by a sense of inevitability. He convinced himself that what he was pursuing was worth the sacrifice. Isabella, heartbroken but determined, relocated to a quaint coastal town. The air was different there, salty and refreshing, a balm to her fractured spirit. She found solace in the rhythmic crash of waves and the kindness of strangers who welcomed her into their community. Little did she know, life was preparing a surprise that would alter her path forever. One rainy afternoon, as Isabella sorted through her meager belongings, a wave of nausea overcame her. It wasn't long before a visit to the local clinic confirmed what she could hardly fathom: she was pregnant. Not with one child, but with quadruplets. The news was overwhelming. For a moment, Isabella felt paralyzed, her mind racing with questions. How would she provide for them? Could she raise 4 children alone? Yet, amidst the doubts, a spark of determination ignited within her. These children were a part of her, a reminder of a love that, while fractured, had once been real. Isabella resolved to embrace the challenge. She immersed herself in books on pregnancy and parenting, leaning on the wisdom of her neighbors, Helen and Robert, an elderly couple who treated her like family. Helen, a retired midwife, became her guiding light, offering practical advice and unwavering encouragement. "Nathan may have left," Helen once said, her voice steady yet compassionate, "but you have a strength he could never take away." Those children will be your greatest legacy." Isabella took these words to heart. Her days were filled with preparation, decorating the nursery, attending parenting classes, and budgeting meticulously to stretch her limited funds. The town rallied around her, organizing fundraisers and lending helping hands. For the first time in months, Isabella felt the warmth of hope rekindling. Nathan, meanwhile, was soaring higher than ever. His relationship with Vanessa had become the stuff of tabloid headlines, their jet-setting lifestyle a stark contrast to the quieter days he once shared with Isabella. Yet beneath the surface, cracks were beginning to show. Success, as intoxicating as it was, came with its own set of burdens. Nathan found himself questioning the emptiness of his achievements. The thrill of signing multi-million-dollar deals waned, replaced by a gnawing sense of regret. On rare quiet evenings, he would glance at old photographs, a younger version of himself, smiling alongside Isabella, a hint of innocence in their eyes. Still, Nathan buried these feelings under layers of distraction. It wasn't until years later, when fate orchestrated an encounter he couldn't ignore, that his carefully constructed facade began to crumble. As Isabella's due date approached, her resilience was tested like never before. Complications arose, prompting an early delivery. On a stormy night, amidst the chaos of a hospital room, she brought her quadruplets into the world, 3 girls and a boy, each a miracle in their own right. She named them Grace, Hope, Faith, and Daniel, a testament to the values she held dear. Holding them in her arms, Isabella felt a profound sense of purpose. She vowed to be both mother and father, protector and provider. And though the road ahead seemed daunting, she was ready to face it with unwavering determination. But life had more in store for Isabella and Nathan. As the years unfolded, their separate journeys would converge in ways neither could predict. What happens when the past collides with the present and secrets long buried come to light? Join us in the next chapter as we explore the unexpected twists that brought them face to face once more. The first few years as a single mother of quadruplets tested Isabella in ways she never thought possible. Sleepless nights were spent soothing cries, while days blurred into a symphony of feeding schedules, diaper changes, and doctor visits. Her once serene coastal home now echoed with the sounds of 4 distinct personalities emerging in tandem. Yet, for all the exhaustion, Isabella found herself falling in love with her children over and over again. Grace, the eldest by minutes, was a natural leader, her calm and observant demeanor a steadying force in the chaos. Hope, with her boundless energy and infectious laughter, became the family's spark of joy. Faith, soft-spoken and deeply empathetic, had an uncanny ability to sense emotions and soothe her siblings. And then there was Daniel, the only boy, whose curious nature and mischievous grin often reminded Isabella of Nathan. The community around Isabella played a crucial role in her survival. Helen and Robert were ever present. Their small acts of kindness, an evening meal, an hour of babysitting, making all the difference. The local church organized donation drives, ensuring that Isabella never lacked the essentials. The town seemed to have adopted her little family, their generosity a testament to the bonds of compassion. By the time the quadruplets turned 5, Isabella had carved out a life she could be proud of. She had resumed her career as a teacher, balancing work and motherhood with meticulous planning. The children flourished under her care, their home a sanctuary of warmth and love. Yet, despite the fullness of her life, there was a part of Isabella that remained scarred. Nathan's absence left a void she couldn't ignore, a wound that refused to fully heal. Nathan, meanwhile, was grappling with his own discontent. The glitz of his high-profile life had begun to wear thin. His relationship with Vanessa, once thrilling, had soured into a transactional partnership. As his empire grew, so did the isolation that came with it. Success felt hollow without someone to share it with. Though he rarely admitted it, memories of Isabella haunted him, her laughter, her unwavering belief in him during the lean years, and the life they had dreamed of building together. One evening, while organizing old files, Nathan stumbled upon a folder labeled Personal. Inside were photographs from their early days together, Isabella beaming at their modest wedding, the two of them posing with the first rudimentary prototype of his software, and candid shots from vacations long forgotten. The weight of what he had lost pressed on him with startling clarity. For the first time in years, Nathan allowed himself to wonder about the life Isabella had built without him. Unbeknownst to Nathan, fate was already setting the stage for their paths to cross once more. When the Quadruplets turned 8, their school held a district-wide art competition, encouraging students to create pieces inspired by family and community. Faith, with her natural sensitivity and talent for drawing, submitted a piece titled "The Heart of Home." It depicted their modest house by the coast, surrounded by waves and a brilliant sunrise. Her teacher, moved by the artwork, submitted it to a larger regional competition. The piece garnered widespread attention, eventually earning a spot in a charity gala showcasing young artists. The event drew prominent figures from various industries, including Nathan Caldwell, who had recently been invited to join the charity's board. The gala venue was a blend of elegance and inspiration, with artwork displayed on easels under soft lighting. Nathan moved through the exhibit with mild interest until he stopped abruptly before Faith's piece. Something about the scene, its warmth, its detail felt strikingly familiar. As he read the description, his heart nearly stopped. The artist's biography listed her name as Faith Caldwell and mentioned her mother, Isabella. Nathan's mind raced. Could it be possible? He had never known Isabella was pregnant when they separated. The idea of her raising not one, but multiple children alone filled him with a mixture of guilt and disbelief. A decade's worth of suppressed emotions surfaced in an instant. Determined to find answers, Nathan approached the event organizer, who confirmed Isabella's attendance. She had accompanied her daughter to the gala, standing quietly in the corner as Faith excitedly discussed her artwork with admirers. Nathan spotted her before she noticed him. Time had added lines of wisdom to her face, but her grace remained unchanged. She wore a simple dress, her posture dignified, a stark contrast to the lavish crowd around her. When their eyes finally met, the world seemed to pause. Isabella's expression shifted from confusion to shock, and finally to a guarded resolve. She hadn't expected to see Nathan again, let alone in a setting so public. Her instinct was to shield her children from whatever storm his presence might bring. "Nathan," she said, her voice steady despite the whirlwind inside her. "Isabella." He struggled to find the words. I didn't know about them, about the children." Her gaze hardened. "And whose fault is that?" Before he could respond, Faith ran over, holding her ribbon triumphantly. "Mom, look, we won." She paused, noticing Nathan. "Who's this?" Isabella hesitated, her mind racing. "This is Nathan," she said carefully, avoiding elaboration. Nathan knelt to her level, his voice soft. "You must be Faith. Your artwork is beautiful." Faith beamed, unaware of the tension between her parents. As she skipped away to join her siblings, Nathan rose, his eyes meeting Isabella's with an unspoken plea. "Please," he said, "I need to talk to you. Just once." As Nathan attempts to reconnect with the family he abandoned, Isabella must decide whether to let him into the life she painstakingly rebuilt. What will happen when the children discover the truth about their father? And can Isabella forgive the man who left her when she needed him most? Stay tuned as this emotional journey unfolds. Nathan's request for a conversation lingered in Isabella's mind, even as she tried to ignore the emotions it stirred. She had built a life around moving forward, not looking back. But the sight of him at the gala, his once proud demeanor softened by something akin to remorse, unsettled her. As the night ended and the children dozed in the backseat of her aging car, Isabella wrestled with a question she had avoided for years. Could she truly keep the past buried when it was now staring her in the face? The next morning, the family's usual routine was tinged with an air of unspoken tension. While Lucas and Ava argued over cereal, and Grace tried to mediate with her natural authority, Isabella's thoughts were elsewhere. She watched Faith, who sat at the dining table, carefully cutting out articles from the gala program. The centerpiece was her award-winning artwork, and on the corner of the page was a name she hadn't noticed until now: Nathan Caldwell, listed as one of the benefactors. Faith looked up, catching her mother's distant expression. "Mom, is Mr. Caldwell someone important?" she asked innocently, holding up the page. Isabella froze. For a moment, she considered brushing off the question, but the sincerity in her daughter's eyes demanded a truthful answer. "He's someone I used to know," Isabella replied carefully. "Like a friend?" Faith probed, her curiosity growing. "Not exactly," Isabella said, placing her hand gently on her daughter's shoulder. "He was a part of my life a long time ago. That's all." Faith seemed satisfied with the answer, but the interaction left Isabella unsettled. She realized that shielding the children from Nathan might no longer be an option. That afternoon, while the children were at school, she received a call. The voice on the other end was polite but persistent. It was Nathan. They met at a cafe on the outskirts of town, chosen deliberately by Isabella to avoid unwanted attention. Nathan arrived first, looking out of place in his tailored suit amidst the humble, rustic surroundings. When Isabella walked in, his breath caught. She looked as poised as ever, her strength evident in the way she carried herself. "Thank you for coming," Nathan began, his voice low. "I didn't come for you," Isabella replied bluntly. "I came because I deserve answers." "Why now? Why? After all these years, are you suddenly here?" Nathan exhaled, his composure faltering. "I didn't know about the children," he admitted. "If I had, I swear I wouldn't have left like I did. I was selfish, and I thought I could justify it by convincing myself that I was chasing something bigger. But I was wrong." Isabella's eyes narrowed. "Do you think that changes what happened? Do you think it erases the years I spent raising them alone, struggling to make ends meet while you built your empire?" Nathan looked down, his hands clasped tightly. "No, it doesn't. And I don't expect you to forgive me. But I want to make it right if you'll let me." Isabella scoffed, the bitterness of old wounds surfacing. "And how exactly do you plan to make it right? Write a check? Play the hero for a family you abandoned?" Nathan shook his head. "I don't want to buy my way back in. I want to be there for them, even if it's just a little. I know I can't make up for lost time, but I'd like to try." Isabella left the cafe with more questions than answers. Her initial instinct was to shut Nathan out completely, to protect her children from the pain his reappearance could cause. But another part of her, one she rarely acknowledged, wondered if giving him a chance might be the right thing to do. Not for her, but for Grace, Hope, Faith, and Daniel. That evening, she sought counsel from Helen and Robert. Over cups of chamomile tea in their cozy living room, Isabella poured out the story. "He says he wants to be involved now," she said, her voice tinged with frustration. "But after everything, how can I trust him?" Helen leaned forward, her wise eyes thoughtful. "Trust isn't something you can force, dear, but it's also not something that's impossible to rebuild. The question is, do you believe he's sincere?" Isabella hesitated. "I don't know. Part of me thinks he's just feeling guilty and trying to ease his conscience." Robert, who had been listening quietly, spoke up. "Sometimes guilt is the seed of redemption, but that doesn't mean you owe him anything. You have to decide what's best for your family." The following week, Nathan's persistence proved unrelenting. He sent letters, not emails or texts, but handwritten letters detailing his regret and his hopes for reconnecting. He acknowledged his faults, never once making excuses, and expressed his willingness to abide by whatever boundaries Isabella set. Moved by his efforts, Isabella agreed to let him meet the children under strict conditions. They arranged for a casual meeting at the town's park, a neutral space where the children could feel at ease. Nathan arrived early, his nerves evident as he adjusted his tie repeatedly. When Isabella arrived with the children, the sight of them took his breath away. Each child carried a piece of his features, their presence a living testament to the time he had lost. He introduced himself carefully, avoiding overwhelming them. "I'm Nathan," he said simply. "I'm someone who's very happy to meet you." The children were curious, but cautious. Grace, ever the protector, kept a watchful eye on her siblings. Hope, with her boundless enthusiasm, asked him a flurry of questions, while Faith observed quietly, her expression unreadable. Daniel, always the bold one, broke the tension by challenging Nathan to a game of tag. As the afternoon unfolded, laughter began to replace the initial awkwardness. Nathan's genuine effort to connect didn't go unnoticed, and Isabella couldn't deny the spark of joy she saw in her children's eyes. As Nathan slowly begins to bond with the children, Isabella must navigate the complexities of co-parenting with a man she still doesn't fully trust. Can Nathan prove he has truly changed, or will old wounds resurface to jeopardize their fragile new connection? The story continues with deeper revelations and life-altering choices ahead. The weeks following Nathan's introduction to the children were a whirlwind of emotions for everyone involved. For the quadruplets, Nathan's presence brought an air of intrigue and excitement. Daniel seemed to take to him the quickest. Fascinated by Nathan's stories of building a tech empire and the gadgets he occasionally brought along, Hope loved his humor, often laughing at his attempts to keep up with their games. Grace, true to her cautious nature, remained guarded but polite, while Faith hovered somewhere in the middle, observing him with quiet curiosity. For Isabella, however, it was a time of inner turmoil. She watched Nathan interact with the children, his laughter blending with theirs in ways that felt almost too natural. Part of her wanted to believe he had changed, that the remorse in his letters and actions was genuine. But another part, the one that still bore the scars of his betrayal, couldn't shake the fear that this was temporary, that he might disappear again, leaving their lives in shambles once more. Nathan, for his part, was determined to prove otherwise. He showed up for every planned visit, never late and always prepared with an activity or thoughtful gesture. He listened intently when the children shared their dreams, encouraged their creativity, and even sought advice from Helen and Robert on how to navigate fatherhood after such a long absence. Slowly but surely, he was building bridges, though he knew the one with Isabella would be the hardest to cross. One crisp autumn afternoon, Nathan invited the family to his home for the first time. Isabella hesitated before agreeing, wary of exposing the children to the opulence of his world. But the excitement in their eyes was impossible to deny. When they arrived, the children were wide-eyed at the sprawling estate, complete with a backyard large enough to host a soccer match and a kitchen filled with enough treats to rival a bakery. "Mom, did you know they make fridges with screens on them?" Hope exclaimed, her face pressed against the sleek appliance. "It's just a fridge, sweetie," Isabella replied, though the faintest smile tugged at her lips. Nathan made a point to keep the visit casual, focusing on the children's interests rather than showcasing his wealth. He let them explore the garden, helped Daniel assemble a model airplane, and even attempted to bake cookies with Hope, resulting in a comical flower explosion. By the end of the day, the children were exhausted but happy, and Isabella found herself reluctantly impressed by Nathan's efforts. But as she helped the children pack their things, Nathan approached her with a question she wasn't expecting. "Isabella, could I have a moment alone with you?" She hesitated before nodding, following him to the quiet patio overlooking the garden. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of lavender from the nearby bushes. Nathan leaned against the railing, his expression earnest. "I wanted to thank you for letting me be a part of their lives," he began. "I know this hasn't been easy for you." Isabella crossed her arms, her gaze steady. "It hasn't, and it won't be, Nathan. I'm trusting you with something fragile, something that took me years to build. If you break that trust, I won't," he interjected, his voice firm but gentle. "I know I have a long way to go to earn it, but I'm here for the long haul, for them, and for you, if you'll let me." Isabella's breath caught at the vulnerability in his tone. "Nathan, this isn't about us. It's about the children." "I know," he said, his eyes meeting hers, "but I'd be lying if I said I didn't hope that someday we might find a way to rebuild what we lost." Isabella looked away, the weight of his words stirring emotions she wasn't ready to face. "I need time," she said finally. "Right now, my focus is on what's best for them." Nathan nodded, respecting her boundaries. "Then that's what I'll focus on too," he said softly. As the months passed, Nathan's involvement in the children's lives deepened. He attended their school events, helped with homework, and even joined them for Sunday dinners at Isabella's modest home. The once unthinkable sight of Nathan sitting at her worn kitchen table, laughing as Hope recounted a story about her science project, became surprisingly normal. But with familiarity came new challenges. The children began asking questions Isabella had long dreaded. One evening, as she tucked Daniel into bed, he looked up at her with wide, curious eyes. "Mom, why didn't Dad live with us before?" he asked. Isabella froze, her heart pounding. She had always known this moment would come but hadn't prepared for it. Taking a deep breath, she sat beside him, choosing her words carefully. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes, Daniel. Your dad and I had different paths for a while, but now he wants to be here for you, and that's what matters." Daniel seemed to accept the answer, but Isabella knew the question was only the beginning. Over the next few weeks, the other children began voicing their own thoughts. Grace wanted to understand why Nathan left, while Faith wondered if their lives would have been different if he had stayed. Hope, ever optimistic, simply asked if they could all live together now. These questions eventually led to a pivotal family meeting. At Isabella's insistence, Nathan joined her to address the children's concerns openly and honestly. Sitting in their cozy living room, with the children's expectant faces turned toward them, Nathan spoke with a vulnerability that surprised even himself. "I made a mistake," he admitted, his voice heavy with emotion. "I was selfish, and I hurt your mom by leaving. I didn't know about you then, but even if I had, I wasn't the kind of man who deserved to be in your lives. I'm trying to change that now, and I hope you'll let me prove it to you." The room was silent for a moment before Grace spoke, her voice steady but tinged with emotion. "Are you going to leave again?" Nathan's heart ached at the question. He knelt before her, looking her in the eye. "Never," he said firmly. "I promise you, Grace. I'm here to stay." As Nathan continues to rebuild his relationship with the children, the lingering pain between him and Isabella threatens to derail their fragile progress. Will they find a way to confront their shared past and move forward? Or will old wounds resurface to tear them apart once again? Stay with us as the story takes a powerful turn toward the truth. Nathan's promise to Grace marked a turning point for the entire family. Though cautious, the children began to let him in more fully. He became a fixture in their daily lives, picking them up from school, cheering them on at their sports games, and even hosting occasional sleepovers at his home. Slowly, the bond between Nathan and his children strengthened, each moment a step toward healing the wounds of the past. For Isabella, however, the journey was far more complicated. Watching Nathan embrace fatherhood stirred conflicting emotions. On one hand, she saw the genuine effort he was making and the joy it brought to the children. On the other, she couldn't forget the years of struggle she had endured alone, nor the pain of his initial betrayal. She often found herself replaying the past in her mind, trying to reconcile the man Nathan was now with the man who had walked away. One evening, after a particularly hectic day, Isabella found herself at Helen and Robert's house, seeking advice as she had so many times before. Helen poured her a cup of chamomile tea and sat across from her, her expression calm but expectant. "You've got that look again," Helen said gently. "The one that says you're carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders." Isabella sighed, cradling the warm mug in her hands. "It's Nathan. He's doing everything right, Helen. The kids adore him. But I can't shake this feeling that it's too good to be true. What if he leaves again? What if he hurts them the way he hurt me?" Helen leaned forward, her wise eyes meeting Isabella's. "You're protecting your children. That's what any good mother would do. But sometimes we have to take risks for the sake of love. Do you believe he's sincere?" Isabella hesitated. "I think he is. But how do I forgive him for what he did to me? How do I move past it?" Helen's voice softened. "Forgiveness isn't about forgetting, dear. It's about choosing to release the hold that pain has over you. It doesn't mean you have to trust him completely or let him back into your heart. But it does mean giving yourself permission to heal." Isabella mulled over Helen's words in the days that followed. She began to notice how much lighter the children seemed since Nathan's return, how their laughter came more freely, and their questions about the past had dwindled. Yet, she couldn't ignore her own unresolved feelings. One evening, as she tucked the children into bed, Nathan knocked on the door. He had come to return Daniel's forgotten backpack, but his hesitant expression suggested he had more on his mind. Isabella stepped outside, closing the door quietly behind her. "What is it, Nathan?" she asked, crossing her arms against the cool evening air. "I wanted to talk to you," he said, his voice earnest. "I know I've hurt you, Isabella. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. But I need to say this anyway. I regret every decision that took me away from you and the kids. I've spent years trying to fill a void I didn't even understand until I saw you again. Being around them around you, it's shown me what I lost, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for it." Isabella looked away, her heart pounding. "You can't undo the past, Nathan. I had to rebuild everything from the ground up because of you. I had to be strong for them when you weren't there." "I know," Nathan said, his voice breaking. "And that's why I admire you more than anyone I've ever known. You're the strongest person I've ever met. Isabella, I just want a chance to be the man you and the kids deserve, even if it's only as their father." For a moment, silence hung between them, the weight of unspoken emotions pressing down. Finally, Isabella took a deep breath. "It's not about what you say, Nathan. It's about what you do. Words are easy. Proving them takes time." Nathan nodded, accepting her guarded response. "Then I'll keep proving it, every day, for as long as it takes." True to his word, Nathan continued to show up, not just for the children, but also for Isabella. He took on more responsibilities, volunteering to help with school projects and household repairs. He even started small gestures of kindness, like leaving a bag of her favorite coffee beans on the porch or offering to pick up groceries. Isabella remained cautious, but she couldn't deny the effort he was making. One rainy afternoon, while the children were at school, Isabella found herself organizing old photo albums. As she flipped through pages filled with memories, she stumbled upon a picture from their wedding day. She and Nathan stood side by side, their faces glowing with youthful hope. Tears pricked her eyes as she realized how far they had come and how much they had lost along the way. Just then, a knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. She opened it to find Nathan, drenched from the rain but holding a small bouquet of wildflowers. "I know it's not much," he said sheepishly, "but I saw these on the way here and thought of you." Isabella took the flowers, her expression unreadable. "You didn't have to." "I know," he said, his eyes searching hers. "But I wanted to." As the months passed, Nathan's consistent efforts began to chip away at Isabella's walls. The children, too, sensed the change, their home gradually filling with a sense of wholeness they had never known before. Nathan's presence brought not only support, but also a newfound stability, and Isabella couldn't ignore the impact it had on their lives. One evening, as they gathered for a family dinner, Grace surprised everyone by announcing her school essay topic, "What Family Means to Me." She read aloud her opening paragraph, her words filled with gratitude and love. As she spoke, Isabella glanced at Nathan, who was visibly moved, his eyes brimming with unshed tears. It was in that moment that Isabella realized something profound. Forgiveness wasn't a single act, it was a process, a journey of letting go and choosing hope over fear. Perhaps it was time to take the first step, not just for the children, but for herself. As Isabella begins to open her heart to the possibility of forgiveness, a long-buried secret threatens to disrupt the fragile harmony they've built. Will their family survive the revelation, or will it shatter the bonds they've worked so hard to create? The next chapter unveils a truth that changes everything. Life in the Caldwell household had settled into an unexpected rhythm. Nathan's presence was no longer a novelty, but a comforting constant, and the children had embraced him as a father in every sense of the word. The once awkward family dinners were now filled with stories, laughter, and the occasional playful argument over who got the last slice of pizza. Even Isabella found herself relaxing, her guarded demeanor softening with each passing day. But as the family grew closer, an undercurrent of unease began to surface. It started with small moments, a thoughtful glance from Nathan that lingered too long, or an unspoken question in Isabella's eyes when their hands accidentally brushed. Neither dared to address it directly, but the history between them seemed to hover in the background, waiting for a moment to re-emerge. One chilly evening, after the children had gone to bed, Nathan stayed to help Isabella with the dishes. The kitchen was quiet, except for the clinking of plates and the hum of the dishwasher. As Nathan handed her a towel, he hesitated, his expression troubled. "Isabella," he began cautiously, "there's something I've been meaning to talk to you about." She glanced at him, her brow furrowing. "What is it?" Nathan took a deep breath, as if steeling himself for a difficult confession. "I've been thinking a lot about the past, about how I left and the decisions I made back then. There's more to it than what I told you." Isabella's hands froze mid-motion, the towel hanging limply in her grasp. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice laced with suspicion. Nathan's gaze dropped to the floor. "When I left, I didn't just leave because I was chasing success or because of Vanessa. There were other pressures, financial ones. I was facing a lawsuit that could have ruined everything, and I made some deals to save the company. But those deals came with strings attached. One of them was severing all ties to anything that could distract me, including my family." Isabella's eyes widened, a mixture of anger and disbelief washing over her. "You're saying you abandoned us because someone told you to? Because of a contract?" "It wasn't just that," Nathan said quickly. "I thought I was protecting you. I was terrified of dragging you into my mess, of letting you suffer because of my choices. I convinced myself that leaving was the best way to shield you, but I see now how wrong I was." Isabella's jaw tightened, her voice trembling with emotion. "You had no right to make that decision for me. Nathan, do you know how much pain you caused? How many nights I cried, wondering what I did wrong?" Nathan stepped closer, his own voice breaking. "I know, Isabella, and I've lived with that guilt every single day. I'm not telling you this to make excuses. I just want you to understand the truth." For a long moment, neither spoke. The weight of Nathan's confession hung heavy in the air, a stark reminder of the choices that had reshaped their lives. Finally, Isabella turned away, her back to him as she struggled to regain her composure. "I don't know if I can forgive you for that," she said quietly. "I understand," Nathan replied, his voice barely above a whisper, "but I'm still here. And I'm not going anywhere, no matter how long it takes." The days that followed were marked by a noticeable tension between Nathan and Isabella. The children sensed the shift but couldn't pinpoint its cause. And Isabella made every effort to keep things as normal as possible. Yet, deep down, she wrestled with conflicting emotions: resentment for the choices Nathan had made, and a reluctant admiration for the man he was trying to become. One afternoon, while cleaning out the attic, Isabella stumbled upon an old box of keepsakes from their early years together. Among the photographs and letters was a journal she had kept during their marriage. As she flipped through the pages, memories flooded back: their first apartment, their late-night talks, and the dreams they had once shared. She paused on an entry written shortly after Nathan's departure. The words were raw and anguished, a reflection of her heartbreak. Yet, amidst the pain, there was a line that stood out: "I don't hate him. I just wish he had trusted me enough to face it together." The realization hit her like a wave. While Nathan's actions had been deeply flawed, his choices were rooted in fear, not malice. He had been as lost as she was, navigating a world that demanded sacrifices neither of them were prepared for. That evening, Isabella invited Nathan to stay for tea after dinner. The children had gone to bed, leaving the two of them alone in the dimly lit living room. Isabella handed him a steaming mug, her expression contemplative. "I found something today," she began, her tone measured. "My old journal from when you left." Nathan's grip on the mug tightened. "I can't imagine it has anything good to say about me." "You'd be surprised," Isabella said, a faint smile tugging at her lips. "There was one line that stood out. It said, 'I wished you had trusted me enough to face things together.' I think that's what hurt the most, not just that you left, but that you didn't believe we could handle it as a team." Nathan looked down, his shoulders slumping. "You're right, I didn't. I let my fear control me, and I underestimated your strength. I see that now, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life." Isabella took a deep breath, her gaze steady. "I don't know if I can fully forgive you yet, but I'm willing to try. Not for the past, but for the future, for the kids, and maybe for us too." Nathan's eyes filled with gratitude, his voice trembling. "That's all I could ever hope for. Thank you, Isabella." As the weeks turned into months, The family's bond grew stronger. Nathan's efforts didn't waver, and Isabella found herself letting go of the anger that had weighed her down for so long. Together, they began to build something new, not a recreation of their old life, but a partnership rooted in mutual respect and a shared love for their children. One evening, as the family sat around the fireplace, Grace surprised everyone with a heartfelt announcement. "I think we're lucky," she said, her voice steady. "Not everyone gets a second chance to be a family, but we did. And I think that's pretty amazing." Isabella and Nathan exchanged a glance, their eyes reflecting the same unspoken truth. Grace was right. Their journey had been messy and painful, but it had also brought them to a place of healing and hope. As the family embraces their newfound unity, a surprise opportunity tests the strength of their bond. Will they rise to the challenge together, or will old fears threaten to pull them apart once more? Stay tuned for the next chapter, where love and resilience take center stage. The Caldwell family's new chapter seemed to blossom in ways Isabella hadn't thought possible. The once tense interactions between her and Nathan now carried a sense of cautious camaraderie, as if they were learning to trust each other all over again. The children were thriving, their confidence and happiness growing with each passing day. But just as their lives began to stabilize, life threw them an unexpected twist, an opportunity that would test everything they had worked so hard to rebuild. One crisp morning, Isabella received an email from a prestigious national education foundation. It informed her that she had been nominated for their Innovative Educator Award due to her remarkable teaching methods and community contributions. Along with the honor came a grant large enough to transform her small coastal town's struggling school district, and an invitation to a conference where she could present her ideas. As Isabella read the email, her initial reaction was shock, followed by disbelief. She had always poured herself into her work, but she had never sought recognition for it. The idea of standing on a national stage, sharing her journey, filled her with both pride and trepidation. That evening, over dinner, Isabella shared the news with the family. The children erupted in cheers, especially Hope, who practically bounced out of her chair with excitement. "Mom, you have to do it," she exclaimed. "You're always telling us to believe in ourselves. So now it's your turn." Nathan's reaction was more measured, but equally supportive. "This is an incredible opportunity," he said. "You deserve this, Isabella, and I'll help with whatever you need while you prepare." Isabella smiled, though her nerves remained. "Thank you, but it's not just about me. If I do this, it'll mean big changes for the school and for us. I'll need to spend time preparing and traveling, which means you'll need to take on more with the kids." Nathan nodded without hesitation. "Consider it done." Despite Nathan's reassurances, Isabella couldn't help but feel a flicker of doubt. While she had come to rely on his help more in recent months, trusting him fully with the children still felt like stepping into uncharted territory. Would he rise to the occasion, or would the pressures of his own life pull him away once more? The weeks leading up to the conference were a whirlwind. Isabella immersed herself in planning her presentation, often working late into the night. Meanwhile, Nathan stepped into the role of primary caregiver with surprising ease. He juggled school pickups, packed lunches, and even helped Grace rehearse for her debate team's upcoming competition. At first, Isabella found herself double-checking everything, reminding Nathan about doctor's appointments and leaving detailed notes for the children's routines. But as the days went on, she began to notice how seamlessly Nathan handled things. The children were happy, their schedules intact, and Nathan's presence remained steady. One evening, as she returned home from a long day of meetings, Isabella found the house unusually quiet. Curious, she peeked into the living room and saw Nathan and the children huddled together on the couch, engrossed in a movie. The sight warmed her heart in a way she hadn't expected. "Mom," Daniel called out, noticing her. "Come sit with us. Dad made popcorn." Isabella hesitated for a moment, then joined them. As she sat beside Nathan, their shoulders brushing, she realized how much had changed. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of balance, a partnership she hadn't thought was possible anymore. The day of the conference arrived, and Isabella left for the city with mixed emotions. The children hugged her tightly, while Nathan promised to keep everything under control. As she boarded the train, she couldn't help but feel a pang of worry. Yet, deep down, she knew she had to take this step, not just for herself, but for her family and her community. The conference was a resounding success. Isabella's presentation received a standing ovation, and several attendees approached her afterward to express their admiration. One of the keynote speakers, a renowned educator, even invited her to collaborate on a national initiative. Isabella felt a sense of pride and validation she hadn't experienced in years. But as fulfilling as the experience was, her thoughts often drifted back to her family. She wondered how they were managing without her and whether Nathan had been able to keep up with the demands of parenting 4 energetic children. When Isabella returned home late Sunday evening, she was greeted by a scene that took her breath away. The house was spotless, the children were in their pajamas, and Nathan was in the kitchen preparing tea. "Welcome home," Hope shouted, running to embrace her. "We missed you." "I missed you too," Isabella said, hugging her tightly. She glanced at Nathan, who looked tired but content. "How did everything go?" "No disasters," he said with a small smile. "Though Daniel tried to convince me that cookies count as breakfast." Isabella laughed, feeling a wave of relief wash over her. "Thank you, Nathan, for everything." He shrugged modestly. "I told you I'd handle it, but I think we all missed you more than we realized." As the evening wound down, Isabella found herself sitting with Nathan on the porch, the cool night air carrying the scent of the ocean. "You did a great job," she said, breaking the comfortable silence. Nathan leaned back, gazing at the stars. "I just wanted to make you proud," he admitted. "You did," Isabella said softly. "And not just with the kids. You've come a long way, Nathan. I can see how much you've changed." He turned to her, his expression sincere. "It's because of you and them. You all gave me a second chance I didn't deserve, and I'm not going to waste it." For the first time, Isabella felt the weight of her doubts lift. The man sitting beside her wasn't the same one who had left years ago. He was someone who had faced his flaws, made amends, and fought to rebuild what he had broken. Just as it seems their family has found a solid foundation, a figure from Nathan's past reappears, threatening to unravel the fragile trust they've built. Will their bond withstand this new challenge, or will it be tested beyond repair? Join us in the next chapter as the journey toward renewal takes an unexpected turn. For a time, life in the Caldwell household felt almost idyllic. The routines, laughter, and shared moments created a rhythm that felt more like a family than Isabella ever thought possible after Nathan's departure. The children continued to flourish, excelling in school and growing closer to their father with each passing day. Even Isabella, cautious as she remained, allowed herself to embrace the peace they had built together. But peace, as life often reminds us, can be fragile. One Friday evening, while Isabella was preparing dinner, Nathan received an unexpected phone call. He stepped out onto the porch to answer, his voice low and tense as he spoke to the caller. Isabella watched him from the window, sensing something was wrong. When he returned, his expression was troubled, and she immediately knew that whatever had been said would change everything. "Nathan?" she prompted gently. He hesitated, running a hand through his hair. "That was Vanessa," he finally admitted, his voice laden with unease. Isabella stiffened, her grip tightening on the spoon she held. "What does she want after all this time?" "She's in trouble," Nathan said. "She's being investigated for embezzlement. Apparently, some of the deals I made with her years ago are part of the case, and they want to question me." Isabella's stomach sank. The name Vanessa had been little more than a ghost in their lives, a symbol of the betrayal that had fractured their family. Now it threatened to upend everything they had worked so hard to rebuild. "Do you have any idea how this will affect us?" she asked, her tone sharp. "I know," Nathan said, his voice strained, "and I'm not going to let it. I've already contacted a lawyer. I'll cooperate fully, but I'm not guilty of anything illegal. I made mistakes back then, but I didn't cross any lines. Your name being tied to this at all could ruin everything," Isabella said, her voice rising. "What about the children? What about the life we've been building?" Nathan stepped closer, his expression pleading. "I'll do whatever it takes to protect you and the kids. I swear, Isabella, I won't let this destroy us." The news of the investigation spread quickly, and soon, whispers began to reach the quiet coastal town where Isabella and the children had found refuge. Parents at the school avoided her in the parking lot, and a local reporter even showed up at their doorstep one morning, asking for a statement. Isabella's patience was tested like never before, but her resolve to shield her children from the fallout only grew stronger. Grace, ever perceptive, noticed the tension and confronted her mother one evening. "Mom, what's going on? Why are people acting weird?" Isabella hesitated, debating how much to reveal. "There's some old business from your father's past that's come up," she said carefully. "It's nothing to worry about, but people love to gossip." "Is it about Vanessa?" Grace asked bluntly, her tone sharper than usual. Isabella blinked, surprised. "How do you know about her?" "I overheard Dad talking to Aunt Helen," Grace admitted, crossing her arms. "Is she the reason Dad left us?" Isabella felt her heart sink. "Grace, there's a lot more to the story than that. Your dad made mistakes, but he's trying to make things right now." Grace's expression softened slightly, but the hurt in her eyes remained. "I just don't want us to go back to how things were before," she said quietly. "Neither do I," Isabella replied, pulling her daughter into a hug. "And we won't. I promise." Meanwhile, Nathan worked tirelessly to clear his name. He met with his lawyer, provided every document and detail he could remember, and even agreed to give a formal statement to investigators. But as the pressure mounted, it became clear that Vanessa's reckless actions had left a deeper trail than anyone anticipated. The deals Nathan had signed all those years ago, though technically legal, were now being scrutinized for their ethical implications. One evening, as Nathan sat at the kitchen table poring over paperwork, Isabella joined him. She placed a steaming mug of tea in front of him, her expression softer than it had been in days. "You look like you could use a break," she said, sitting down beside him. Nathan sighed, rubbing his temples. "I feel like I'm fighting a battle I can't win." "You're not alone in this," Isabella said firmly. "We're a team, remember? We'll get through this together." Nathan looked at her, gratitude shining in his eyes. "I don't deserve you, Isabella. After everything I've put you through." "Stop," she interrupted, placing her hand over his. "We've both made mistakes, Nathan. But what matters is how we move forward. And right now, we have 4 amazing reasons to keep fighting." As the investigation dragged on, the family faced growing scrutiny. But through it all, they clung to each other. The children rallied around their parents, offering their own small but heartfelt gestures of support. Daniel, who had recently developed an interest in technology, built a model of the family's home and presented it to Nathan with a shy smile. "This is us," he said simply. "Unbreakable." Nathan's eyes misted as he held the model, his resolve strengthening. "Thank you, buddy," he said, pulling Daniel into a hug. "That means more to me than you know." Even Grace, who had been the most skeptical of Nathan's return, began to soften. One evening, as the family gathered for dinner, she surprised everyone by proposing a toast. "To family," she said, raising her glass of lemonade, "and to sticking together no matter what." Isabella and Nathan exchanged a glance, their unspoken understanding palpable. They knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but they also knew they could face it together. After months of uncertainty, the investigation finally came to a close. Nathan was cleared of any wrongdoing, his cooperation and transparency earning him a formal letter of exoneration. The relief was palpable, and the family celebrated with a quiet dinner at home, savoring the hard-won peace. As they sat around the table, Isabella looked at Nathan, a rare smile gracing her lips. "You did it," she said softly. "We did it," Nathan corrected, his gaze filled with gratitude. For the first time, Isabella allowed herself to believe that their future was no longer defined by the mistakes of the past. It was a future they were building together, one step at a time. Just as the Caldwells begin to embrace their newfound stability, an unexpected opportunity arises that could change their lives forever. Will they seize it, or will the shadows of the past hold them back once again? Stay tuned as this inspiring journey reaches its powerful conclusion. And so, the Caldwell family's journey teaches us a powerful lesson that love, forgiveness, and resilience can mend even the deepest wounds. Through their struggles and triumphs, they proved that the bonds of family are not defined by perfection, but by the commitment to grow, learn, and support one another. What did you think of this story? Have you ever experienced a moment where forgiveness or resilience helped you overcome a challenge? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. If this story moved you, take a moment to subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you'll never miss an inspiring tale that reminds us of the strength of the human spirit. Don't forget to hit the like button and share this video with someone who could use a little hope today. And if you're looking for more heartwarming stories, be sure to check out the other videos on our channel. Each one is a testament to the power of empathy, compassion, and second chances. Together, let's celebrate the moments that remind us of what truly matters in life. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.